In the vast expanse of space, humanity had always imagined first contact would involve peaceful exchanges of knowledge and culture. We were wrong, dead wrong. The arrival of the Galactic Empire's diplomatic vessel in Earth's orbit last week marked the beginning of what would become the most defining moment in human history. I remember standing in the United Nations observation deck, watching alongside other world leaders as their sleek, crystalline ship descended through our atmosphere. The metallic hull shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence that made our most advanced spacecraft look like children's toys. As Earth's appointed negotiator, my heart raced with both excitement and apprehension. The Empire's representatives emerged from their vessel with an air of superiority that set everyone on edge. Their tall, elegant forms towered over us, their silver-scaled skin reflecting the afternoon sun. But it wasn't their appearance that chilled me to the bone. It was their message. "Your species has been deemed unworthy of galactic citizenship," the lead diplomat announced, his multifaceted eyes scanning our delegation with what I could only interpret as disdain. "Earth will be marked as a restricted zone, forbidden from any interstellar contact or trade." The silence that followed was deafening. 20 years of preparing for this moment, of unifying our planet and advancing our technology, all dismissed in a single sentence. But what happened next would shock the entire galaxy. Sarah Chen, our chief scientist, stepped forward. Her voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. She asked the question that would change everything. "On what grounds do you make this judgment?" The Imperial delegation shifted uncomfortably, the first crack in their perfect composure. Their leader's translator crackled as he spoke. "Your species' primitive emotional responses make you unpredictable and dangerous. Your history is marked by conflict and division." I couldn't help but smile. They had no idea what they'd just done. Humanity had spent millennia fighting amongst ourselves. True, but nothing united us faster than an outside threat telling us we weren't good enough. Within hours, the news spread across the globe. Social media exploded with memes mocking the Empire's decision. Streets filled with protesters carrying signs reading, "Earth, too cool for space school," and "Humans need not apply. Watch us." Our response wasn't anger or despair. It was defiance wrapped in humor, creativity, and an unshakable determination. The Empire's representatives departed that evening, leaving behind their official declaration of Earth's exclusion from galactic society. They didn't realize they'd just handed us the greatest gift possible, a common purpose. As I watched their ship disappear into the darkening sky, I thought about how they'd misunderstood the very thing they criticized about us. Our emotions, our unpredictability, our history of overcoming impossible odds, these weren't our weaknesses. They were our greatest strengths. And now, as I sit here recording this message for future generations, I can tell you that humanity's response to being told no was exactly what you'd expect from a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to moon landings in just 66 years. The Empire thought they were closing a door on humanity. Instead, they just challenged us to build our own gateway to the stars. And if there's one thing humans excel at, it's proving others wrong. What happened in the months following that fateful meeting would become legendary across the galaxy. But first, you need to understand exactly how a bunch of primitive humans managed to turn the Empire's smugness into shocked disbelief. And trust me, that story is worth sticking around for. The day after the Empire's departure, I was summoned to an emergency meeting in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Walking into that underground chamber felt like stepping into a scene from a spy movie, except this was terrifyingly real. Around a massive holographic table sat the brightest minds Earth had to offer: scientists, military strategists, and leaders from every major space program. Dr. Chen was already there, her usual lab coat replaced by a crisp military uniform. "They made a crucial mistake," she announced as I took my seat. Their declaration of our exclusion included detailed specifications of what technology we're forbidden to develop. In trying to limit us, they'd given us a roadmap. The holographic display flickered to life, showing schematics we extracted from the Empire's declaration. Their arrogance had led them to believe we couldn't possibly understand their advanced technology, so they'd been remarkably specific about what we weren't allowed to create. Quantum drives, gravitational manipulators, faster than light communications. It was all there, laid out like a cosmic cookbook of forbidden recipes. But here's the real kicker, Dr. Chen continued, a mischievous glint in her eyes. They based their assessment of our technological capabilities on our public infrastructure. They never discovered our black projects. The room erupted in knowing smiles. For decades, we kept our most advanced research hidden, not from each other, but from potential alien observers. While the Empire saw nations squabbling over fossil fuels, underground facilities across the globe had been perfecting zero-point energy. As they judged our primitive space program, we'd already achieved quantum entanglement communication. General Rivera, our military advisor, leaned forward. Our defensive capabilities are far beyond what they witnessed. Remember the meteor shower over the Pacific last year? The room nodded. It hadn't been meteors at all, but a successful test of our planetary defense system, disguised as a natural phenomenon. But we can't just reveal everything we've been hiding, I cautioned. The moment we show our hand, the Empire will realize their mistake. We need a strategy that keeps them underestimating us until it's too late. That's when Dr. Lee, our head of Sino-Anthropology, spoke up. I've been analyzing their cultural signals. The Empire's society is built on strict hierarchies and absolute compliance. They literally cannot comprehend the concept of beneficial disobedience. Their greatest weakness is their inability to imagine that we dare to defy their ban. For the next several hours, we crafted what would become known as Operation Trojan Horse. The plan was audacious, perhaps even crazy, but it played to humanity's greatest strengths: our creativity, our adaptability, and our absolute refusal to accept arbitrary limitations. The first phase was already in motion. Across the globe, public spaces were filled with performances of compliance. News channels broadcasted stories about humanity's acceptance of our cosmic grounding. Social media influencers started trends about finding happiness in earthbound pursuits. We became the model of a species that had learned its lesson. Meanwhile, in secret facilities scattered across every continent, we began implementing the real plan. Using the Empire's own technological blueprints against them, we started building something they'd never expect, a way to not just break their rules, but to shatter their entire understanding of what humanity was capable of. But as we worked, we detected something troubling. The Empire hadn't completely abandoned Earth's solar system. Hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon, a small observation post remained, watching for any sign of defiance. What they saw must have pleased them. A planet of humans apparently accepting their cosmic timeout with good grace. If they only knew what was coming. 6 months into Operation Trojan Horse, Earth had become a masterpiece of misdirection. On the surface, we were the picture of a humbled civilization. Underground, we were a hive of revolutionary innovation. The Empire's observation post recorded exactly what we wanted them to see, a planet seemingly focused on internal development, showing no signs of reaching for the stars. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday morning. I was reviewing progress reports when Dr. Chen burst into my office, soaking wet and breathing hard. "We did it," she gasped, dropping a tablet on my desk. "Project Mirror is ready." The tablet displayed test results that made my heart skip a beat. We'd successfully reverse-engineered the Empire's own technology and improved upon it. Our version of their quantum drive wasn't just functional, it was superior. While their ships needed massive energy cores, ours could operate on a fraction of the power. Where their systems required rare materials from across the galaxy, we found ways to synthesize alternatives from Earth's abundant elements. But our real ace wasn't in matching their technology, it was in how we planned to use it. The Empire's rigid thinking meant their ships always traveled in predictable patterns, following established routes and protocols. We designed our systems to be unpredictable, adaptable, and most importantly, undetectable to their scanning technology. The next phase of our plan began at midnight. In shipyards hidden beneath the ocean floors and inside hollow mountains, we assembled our response to the Empire's ban. Each vessel incorporated everything we learned about their weaknesses. Their sensors couldn't detect our new metamaterials. Their defense systems weren't programmed to recognize our innovative weapon configurations. We turned their own arrogance into a blind spot large enough to hide an entire fleet. Then came the day that almost ruined everything. One of our test ships malfunctioned during a cloaked flight, briefly appearing on standard radar. The Empire's observation post noticed. Within hours, 3 Imperial cruisers entered our solar system, their weapons primed. I remember standing in our command center, watching as they approached Earth. The room was silent except for the soft beeping of monitors. This was the moment of truth. Either our deception would hold, or everything we'd worked for would collapse. The Imperial ships held position just beyond the moon's orbit. Their communication burst was curt. Explain the anomalous energy signature detected at coordinates 27.5 north, 142.3 east. Thanks to months of preparation, we were ready. Our response was a masterpiece of technical gibberish about weather monitoring equipment malfunction. To sell it, we even staged a public dismissal of the scientists responsible for the unauthorized experiment. The Empire bought it. Their ships departed, but not before issuing a final warning. Any further violations would result in severe consequences. Little did they know, that warning was exactly what we needed, proof that our technology could fool their sensors, if only briefly. As I watched their ships disappear into the darkness of space, Dr. Chen placed a hand on my shoulder. "The final preparations are ready," she said quietly. "We launch tomorrow." That night, as humanity held its breath, thousands of carefully chosen crew members made their way to secret launch facilities around the globe. Each person had been selected not just for their skills, but for their ability to think creatively under pressure. We were about to attempt something unprecedented in human history. The Empire thought they'd grounded humanity. Instead, they created the perfect conditions for us to prove why we deserved to be among the stars. As the countdown began, we knew there would be no going back. Either we were about to change the galaxy forever, or the launch sequence began exactly at dawn. Across the globe, hidden facilities rumbled to life as our fleet prepared to make history. But the universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. Just as our ships were about to break atmosphere, our long-range sensors detected something that made my blood run cold. A massive Imperial warship dropping out of hyperspace on the dark side of the moon. This wasn't just any warship. Dr. Lee's face went pale as she analyzed the readings. "That's the Emperor's personal flagship," she whispered. "They never send it unless—" She didn't need to finish. We all knew what it meant. Someone had betrayed us. Our fleet hung in the balance, seconds away from either the greatest triumph in human history or catastrophic defeat. The decision I had to make in that moment would haunt me forever. "Initiate Protocol Omega," I ordered, my voice steadier than my hands. Protocol Omega was our absolute last resort, a plan so audacious we'd almost dismissed it as impossible. Instead of running or hiding, our ships accelerated directly toward the Imperial flagship, their experimental cloaking systems pushed beyond safe limits. It was like playing chicken with a supernova, but we had one advantage they couldn't imagine. We were counting on their arrogance. The Imperial flagship's communication burst nearly overloaded our receivers. "Your pathetic attempt at deception ends now. Surrender your primitive vessels and your punishment may be merciful." Dr. Chen's fingers flew across her console, implementing the final stage of our plan. "They still don't understand," she said with a grim smile. "They're looking for ships trying to escape Earth. They're not prepared for ships trying to get close." That's when we revealed our true innovation. While the Empire had been watching for traditional space launches, we perfected something entirely different. Our ships weren't just cloaked. They were running on a revolutionary propulsion system that mimicked natural solar phenomena. To their sensors, our fleet looked like nothing more than a series of routine solar flares. But we had mere minutes before they realized the truth. The closer we got, the harder it would be to maintain the deception. Through the command center's windows, I watched as the morning sky flickered with what appeared to be aurora borealis, our ship's energy signatures disguised as natural light shows. Then came the second twist that none of us had anticipated. Our sensors detected multiple new signatures emerging from behind Mars. They weren't Imperial ships. Their design was completely unknown, and they were heading straight for the Emperor's flagship. New transmission incoming, our communications officer announced, her voice shaking. Sir, you're going to want to hear this. The message that played through our speakers would reshape everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. People of Earth, a harmonious voice declared, your resistance has not gone unnoticed. The Empire's dominion is not absolute, and you are not alone in your defiance. As we watched in stunned silence, the mysterious ships took up formation alongside our fleet. The Emperor's flagship, caught between two forces it never expected to encounter, hadn't fired a single shot. For the first time in recorded history, the mighty Galactic Empire found itself in a position it had never trained for. But before anyone could celebrate this unexpected alliance, our sensors detected something else. The Imperial flagship was powering up its main weapon array, a weapon system capable of reducing entire continents to ash. We had seconds to decide: fall back and reveal our true numbers, or press forward and risk everything on one final desperate gambit. The next few moments would determine not just Earth's fate, but potentially the future of the entire galaxy. As I opened my mouth to give the order, the command center's lights flickered, and the command center's backup generators kicked in just as our fleet reached the point of no return. Through the restored monitors, we watched as the Emperor's flagship charged its main weapon, a sight few civilizations had witnessed and survived. But that's when humanity's greatest strength came into play, our ability to turn desperate situations into opportunities. Now, Dr. Chen shouted, activating the system we dubbed Project Mirror. In an instant, every ship in our fleet synchronized their experimental quantum fields, creating something unprecedented. A massive energy web that encompassed both our vessels and the Imperial flagship. The Empire had given us their technology's blueprints as a warning. Instead, we used them to create something they'd never imagined possible. The Emperor's weapon fired, but the energy didn't travel outward as intended. Our quantum web caught it, channeled it, and reflected it back upon itself. The massive Imperial ship shuddered as its own power was turned against it, its shields fluctuating under the strain. The mysterious ships that had come to our aid seized this moment. They launched what appeared to be data packets rather than weapons, direct uploads that bypassed the Imperial flagship's security systems. A gift, their commander transmitted, from the coalition of free worlds. Your Empire's secrets, now free for all to see. On every screen across Earth, the truth began to unfold. The Empire wasn't the uncontested power they claimed to be. They were simply the loudest voice in a galaxy full of diverse civilizations, many of whom had been watching Earth with growing interest. Our resistance hadn't just been a fight for our own freedom. It had become a symbol of hope for countless other species. But the Empire had one final card to play. The flagship's secondary systems activated, preparing to initiate what we recognized as a self-destruct sequence. The explosion would destroy everything within 500,000 kilometers, including Earth's moon. That's when Dr. Lee stepped forward, a strange calm in her voice. They forgot what they told us about their containment protocols. While the Empire had been focused on our ships, a small team had transported aboard their flagship using the very technology they'd forbidden us to develop. The team, led by Dr. Lee's protege, had been quietly rewriting the flagship's core protocols. The self-destruct sequence initiated, but instead of an explosion, the flagship's systems began an emergency shutdown. The mighty vessel, pride of the Imperial fleet, hummed powerless in space, and then, in perhaps the greatest irony of all, their own regulations forced them to accept assistance from the nearest available ships, ours. As we brought the Imperial crew aboard our vessels, I couldn't help but smile at their shocked expressions. They'd expected to find primitive savages. Instead, they found humans who had taken their restrictions and turned them into innovations they couldn't even comprehend. The coalition ships transmitted one final message before departing. The galaxy watches today as humanity proves why diversity, creativity, and the right to self-determination must be protected. The age of imperial isolation is over. But as we celebrated our victory, a junior analyst rushed into the command center with news that made everyone fall silent. Our deep space sensors had detected something massive moving at the edge of our solar system, something that made the Emperor's flagship look tiny in comparison. The Empire, it seemed, had been keeping secrets from their own people, and what we just detected suggested our victory might have been exactly what something far more ancient and powerful had been waiting for. The smoke cleared from the ruined battlefield, revealing the crumpled remnants of the Galactic Empire's assault forces. Captain Lyanna Reyes stood at the edge of the ridge, her pulse rifle lowered but still ready. Around her, the scattered defenders of Earth emerged from their makeshift trenches, battered but victorious. The sky, once filled with the ominous hum of alien dropships, was now silent except for the distant crackle of flames. Commander Alrek of the Empire staggered to his feet, his once pristine armor scorched and battered. He stared at Lyanna with a mix of disbelief and reluctant respect. How did you do this?" he asked, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "Your species is backward by every measure. Inferior. Primitive." Lyanna took a slow step forward, her boots crunching on the charred ground. She studied the alien commander, her expression unreadable. "You don't get it, do you?" she said. "It's not about technology or numbers. It's about who we are. You thought you were fighting another starfaring species, but you were fighting asterisk humans. Asterisk, we don't back down, not when our home is at stake." Ulrich's gaze swept over the battlefield. The humans had been outgunned, their defenses laughable by galactic standards. Yet here they stood, victorious. He shook his head. "The Empire will not accept this. Reinforcements will come. Your resistance is pointless." Lyanna let out a dry laugh. "You think this is over? No, Commander. This is just the beginning. Your Empire has been bleeding itself dry, expanding into systems you can't control. You can't afford a war with us. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a force of nature. And now, the galaxy knows it." Behind her, the remnants of Earth's forces began to regroup. Engineers worked frantically to repair the orbital defense grid, while medics tended to the wounded. The United Earth Council had already started broadcasting the victory across the galactic network, ensuring that the Empire couldn't hide its defeat. Ulrich straightened, his pride still intact despite his loss. "This won't end the way you think. The Empire does not forgive. It does not forget." Lyanna raised her rifle, her expression hardening. "Then take your message back to them. Earth is closed. No ships, no diplomats, no trade. If the Empire so much as scans this system again, we'll remind them why we're the species that thrives in chaos." The alien commander hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. He tapped a button on his gauntlet, summoning the few remaining Empire ships for evacuation. As the surviving invaders were extracted, Lyanna turned back to her team, her shoulders sagging. The adrenaline that had carried her through the fight was fading, replaced by the heavy weight of everything they'd lost. Hours later, in a hastily repaired command center, Lyanna stood before a holographic display of the Earth and its surrounding defenses. Representatives from every nation and colony were present, their faces lit with a mixture of relief and determination. "We did the impossible today," she began. "We stood against a force that was supposed to crush us. But this victory isn't just ours. It's a message to the galaxy. Earth doesn't belong to the Empire or anyone else. It belongs to us." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. The council chairwoman, an elderly woman with steel in her gaze, leaned forward. "What's next, Captain? The Empire won't give up so easily." Lyanna met her gaze. "They'll regroup, but they'll hesitate. They've never faced resistance like this. In the meantime, we prepare. We rebuild, we strengthen our alliances, and we make it clear that Earth isn't just a rock at the edge of the galaxy. We're a force to be reckoned with." Outside the command center, civilians began to emerge from shelters, their faces weary but hopeful. Families reunited, and celebrations broke out in pockets of the city. Despite the scars of battle, there was a sense of triumph in the air, a belief that humanity had proven itself in a universe that had underestimated it. As Lyanna stepped out into the twilight, she looked up at the stars. They no longer seemed as distant or threatening as they once had. The Empire had tried to take Earth by force, but in doing so, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a united humanity. This wasn't the end of the fight, she knew, but it was the beginning of something far greater. Earth had sent its message loud and clear. Humanity wasn't just surviving in the galaxy. It was ready to claim its place among the stars.